The Hatchling of Emberpeak. In the distant kingdom of Eldoria, where misty peaks touched the heavens and ancient forests whispered with secrets, lay the volcanic mountain of Emberpeak. Within its fiery heart, hidden deep in an obsidian cavern, a single egg rested upon a bed of molten gold. This was no ordinary egg. Its shell shimmered like polished ruby, glowing with the embers of life itself. For centuries, the egg remained undisturbed, watched over by the last of the elder Waramus, a colossal dragon named Maelgorn the Inferno. With his scales dark as a stormy sky and eyes like burning suns, Maelgorn had long ruled the skies of Eldoria. Yet, his age had caught up with him, and he knew his time would soon pass. This egg, his last heir, was the hope of his kind. Then, on the night of a blood moon, the egg cracked. A thin, fiery fissure ran across its shell, and from within came a sound, a heartbeat, strong and unyielding. With a final, thunderous snap, the egg burst open, revealing a newborn dragon. His scales were bronze, gleaming like the armor of a warrior, and his eyes, golden and sharp, held an intelligence far beyond his age. Maelgorn named him Pyraxius. The First Flight. Pyraxius spent his first weeks within the cavern, learning the ancient ways of dragons from his father. He practiced flicking his tail, stretching his wings, and breathing small puffs of smoke. But his heart longed for the sky. One fateful evening, as Maelgorn slept, Pyraxius crept toward the cave's mouth. A fierce wind howled through the peaks, and below, the world stretched vast and unknown. With a deep breath, the young dragon leaped. The air caught his wings, and for a fleeting moment, he soared. But he had miscalculated. A gust sent him tumbling downward, his wings flailing as he plummeted toward the dense forest below. He crashed into a thicket, landing in a bed of moss and startled birds. Dazed but unharmed, Pyraxius raised his head and found himself in a land unlike the burning caves of Emberpeak. Trees loomed above him, their leaves glowing silver under the moonlight. Fireflies danced like tiny stars, and the scent of rain-soaked earth filled his nostrils. And then, he was not alone. The young knight and the dragon. A rustling in the undergrowth made Pyraxius turn. A boy, no older than 12 summers, stood before him. Clad in crude chainmail, his face streaked with mud, the child held a wooden sword with both hands. His eyes were wide, filled with terror and wonder. "Be by the gods," the boy stammered. "A dragon!" Pyraxius, curious, tilted his head. "And you are?" he asked, his voice still young but carrying the echoes of ancient power. The boy gasped. "You can speak." "Of course, can't you?" The boy blinked, then puffed out his chest as if remembering his courage. "I am Garin, squire to Lord Halric of Stormwatch. And you? You are a fearsome beast, are you not?" Pyraxius considered this. "I am Pyraxius, son of Maelgorn. But I am not so fearsome yet." Garin hesitated, then lowered his sword. "Then, you're just a child like me?" Pyraxius grinned, revealing sharp but still small fangs. "I suppose so." And so, an unlikely friendship was forged. The Adventures of Pyraxius and Garin. In the days that followed, Garin and Pyraxius explored the hidden corners of the valley. They raced across meadows, the boy on foot and the dragon gliding above. They hunted for treasure, old helmets buried in the mud, forgotten swords entangled in roots. At night, Garin would tell tales of knights and kingdoms, and Pyraxius would share the ancient legends of dragonkind. But trouble soon found them. A band of poachers had been scouring the land, seeking rare creatures to sell in distant markets. When they caught sight of Pyraxius, their greedy eyes gleamed. One evening, as he dozed beneath an oak, the men crept forward with nets and chains. But Garin was ready. He had seen their approach and rushed to wake his friend. "Fly, Pyraxius," he cried. The young dragon roared, but his wings were still weak. The poachers lunged, ropes snaring his legs. Pyraxius fought, his claws slashing, but he was outnumbered. Then, Garin did something foolish. He charged straight into the fray. With nothing but his wooden sword, he struck at the poachers, buying Pyraxius just enough time to unleash his first true breath of fire. A scorching burst of flame erupted from his maw, not yet strong enough to harm but enough to frighten the men. they fled, cursing the beast and the mad squire who had defended him. Gasping, Garin fell to his knees. "That was amazing," he panted. Pyraxius grinned. "I think I finally breathed fire." And with that, they laughed, the bond between them sealed forever. The road ahead. As the moons passed, Pyraxius grew stronger, his wings carrying him higher, his flames burning hotter. But he knew that one day, he would have to leave Garin behind and return to Emberpeak to learn the ways of his ancestors. One evening, as they watched the sun sink below the hills, Pyraxius spoke. "Garin, when I grow large, when I am strong enough to rule the skies, will you still call me friend?" The boy, now taller, his wooden sword replaced with steel, smiled. "Always, Pyraxius." And thus, the legend of Pyraxius and Garin began, a tale whispered by travelers and sung by bards, of a dragon and a knight who, in their youth, shared a bond stronger than fire and steel. And though their paths would one day diverge, the sky itself would remember the first flight of the young dragon who dared to befriend a human.